Fully agree with you there. Right, here we go. We are live. I think there is a slight delay, but yeah, looks like we're cooking with gas. Hi, everybody. I did see Brian say hi and John say hi in the crowd. Good to see. We've got Sam here as well. Right, so Lena may be on the way. We don't know, weather permitting.
Yeah, weather permitting. She is in the eye. Well, she was in the eye of the storm down there in Tampa, Florida. And if she has power now, it's quite amazing. I don't think she probably does. So her things might be running off a battery. So we'll see if she can make it or not.
It did say, I did speak to her earlier, and she did say she was going to try and make it, but who knows what's happened. And so yeah, we'll wait and see. She might show up, but we'll in the meantime we'll carry on without her. I was just having a really interesting conversation with Robin about. I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to. In fact, we'll do the intros first. So, Robin, do you want to let everybody know who? I mean, I think everybody knows who you are by now. But let's.
Our little closed group. I'm sure. My name's Robin Dreeke. I am former United States Marine, former head of the FBI Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program / spy recruiter, and run my own company. 3 books published. Blah blah blah. So yes, I'm all about forging trust, and have my podcast by the same name, Forged by Trust.
Hey, brilliant, thank you. I really should have learned my lesson. I do this every week and should have gone first because that's just hard to follow, isn't it? Oh, Lena's here.
Yay, Lena's in the house.
Right, let's.
Oh my God, I feel so nice. Thank you, guys.
Great to see you made it. We were worried because we thought the storm had got the better of your electric supply. So you timed that perfect. I was just complaining that I'm going to go last with the intros, and it's hard enough to follow Robin. So, but for anybody who's going to join us who's new, Lena, I'll let you do your intro, and then I'll hide.
And then you're gonna hide. All right. Yeah. Well, hi everybody. First off, it feels like it's been forever, guys. From traveling overseas to then coming back and catching COVID and then going through this hurricane. Oh my God, let me just say that I'm so thankful to be back with you both and in this and intro. Who am I? I'm Lena Sisco. I am a former interrogator, and that's my dog. Yeah, she's joining me today. I've published a couple of books. I have my 3rd book coming out called Honest Answers in November, and I'm super, super excited about it. I think there's so much good, valuable information for so many people for you guys to use in your every single day lives. I gave a TED Talk. Started my own company in 2013, and I don't even know where else to go. What else have I done? Who else am I?
All sorts. Marine certified, interrogation.
So I'm known as a body language expert, interrogation expert, interviewing expert, elicitation, but also I have this whole other side of me, this whole other life that focuses around leadership and interpersonal communication skills. And of course, with Robin and Forging Trust and really having these impactful relationships with people and how to enhance that communication with people. So that's who I am in a nutshell. And I'm so happy to be here. Although I look very tired.
Well, we are glad to have you back, and you look amazing.
Thank you.
Especially for getting back and surviving and getting over a bad route of COVID as well as a hurricane right now. What a trooper.
I'm trying.
Well done. So, right, how do I follow that? So, Gavin Stone, 20 years or thereabouts in the security and intelligence trade, former civil servant for the British Ministry of Defence. For the Americans out there, that's the equivalent of the DIA or something very similar. I've done a little bit of everything from covert surveillance to human intelligence gathering and everything in between, penetration testing, close protection. Turned trainer, author. I just released my 2nd edition of my lie detection book, How to Tell If Somebody's Lying, and I have 2 fiction novels on the way, so keep your eye out for those. I'm quickly going to announce that next week. I think I spoke to Robin about it. We have a guest coming. I'm not going to say who it is to everybody yet, but it is a legend in the industry, and he's going to slap me for saying that, but he is an absolutely great guy, and I love him to bits, who's going to be with us next week. And also, I picked up on something Robin said, and when you turn around, Lena, and said there's another side to me that nobody knows, I actually, and this is a bit of speculation here, I don't know this for definite, but I actually think there's a little bit of a side to all 3 of us that nobody knows, and that's the side of the woo.
Oh,
we haven't explored it much, have we? We've stuck to body language, we've stuck to facts, we've stuck to the kind of the black and white.
Yeah.
How about as a little bit of a special one-off, because I mean we've got that guest next week, but maybe the week after, we explore that avenue a little bit.
Sure. I think it's a
Yeah.
great idea. And as a primer for that, if everyone would go listen to 2 episodes in particular of my Forged by Trust podcast, one with Lena, because we talk a little bit about the woo-woo for some context, and also the one I just came out with this past week with Shawnee Delaney, because she talks about, and also I give props to Jim Lawler as well, because he also talks about the metaphysics of recruiting, and she talks about the energy exchange people have when building connections and energy vibrations. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about the woo. So give those a listen, listen, so you can kind of see what the primer for that is, because that's where we make our bread and butter with human connections, is going deeper beyond tools and techniques, which are they're a very small starting point to do the most important thing, and that is making those great deep connections.
Gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to share something about should I
go?
So most of you, well, you guys know, and most of our viewers know that I just got hit with COVID, but here's the crazy woo part of this. When I went over to England, I had such an amazing time, such good things coming, and perhaps my own TV show and a documentary. So, but I can't have to say hush hush right now. But just amazing people I worked with. On the return, as I was coming back home, a couple days before I came back home, I just felt just unhealthy. I couldn't put my hand on it, my finger on it. I was like, I don't know. I feel like I'm eating too unhealthy. I'm like eating too much and I'm drinking too much wine. I don't know what it is. I just don't feel healthy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get COVID and I have to go through a cleanse. I knew it. I just knew it. And I kept telling my husband, like, babe, I'm going to get COVID. He's like, what are you talking about? You don't ever get sick. You're not going to catch COVID. Don't worry about it. I'm like, no. When I get home, I'm going to catch it because I need to go through a cleansing. I need a deep detox cleanse. Something is calling to me. Wouldn't you know? I came home. The next day I woke up. I was, I couldn't sleep because I was off on the time schedule. So I was buzzing around. I had my cup of coffee, my espresso, and I was outside cleaning the bird feeders. And all of a sudden it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh, I'm sick. And for 7 days, down.
It's not pleasant, is it?
No, it is not. But I tell you what, and I talked to a lot of my woo-woo friends, and the only thing that was going in my system was teas, herbs, like arnica, sambucol, all healthy stuff, days, liquids, vitamin C, and all this healthy stuff, and rest. I needed rest. I was so strung out. I was just so tapped out. So circling back around to the woo, I really feel I am now rejuvenated. I guess that's the right word. And I know I'm coming back stronger, but I needed it.
So question on that.
I knew. I was like, wow, he's thinking.
Yeah, you can see it.
So Lena, you said when you were over there that something just felt unhealthy. You kind of felt it coming on.
Yes.
So if we're talking woo, when you were interacting with a lot of people, a lot of situations, a lot of things and events going on, did you pick up on anything, negative vibrations, negative toxicity with the groups and organization? Because when I'm making
probably.
Yeah, but seriously though, when you're involved with a lot of different opportunities, one of my markers I look for is that you feel healthy when doing something, or do you get a sense of unhealthy? So a lot of times that'll be a marker for me. It's not everything, but it's part of that decision process. And it sounds like something, again, it could be completely biological, but if we're talking woo side, was there someone or something that popped up that you can maybe trace back? I'm not saying to reveal now, but just, do you think there might've been something in there? Or was it purely just biological, you think?
So I'm thinking now, I thought it was purely biological because I was exhausted.
Right.
I mean, I was burning the candle at both ends. I hadn't slept before I went over, no sleep, and I'm working, and I'm sightseeing, and just go. So I think it was mostly biological.
Sure.
Yeah. But I love how you brought that up, because there have been times where I have been around an environment or situation or people that were, I just didn't like it. Something was off. And then I got sick. Like I had a headache, or I felt congested or something, or I was just sluggish. I'm like, oh, that's really bizarre. But then when you think about it, it's not, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it just goes into that decision process with everyone and everything. It's just all considerations come when you're assessing relationships and you're assessing health and you're making decisions in life. I think bringing it all in, retracing steps, going through it, and ruling out options again, especially if you're about to make big decisions.
Yes.
We're assessing, is this a good, healthy decision that is actually going to be good and healthy for me, my family, the people I care about in life? And so I suck in all that information. And so the good thing is, sounds like it was just a case of Lena working too hard.
In fact, you all the big colleges agree on this. All the big names agree on this, and 95% of all disease can be tracked back to stress, and that's all disease.
Yes.
So that does vary from college to college. Some say it's more than 95%. Some say it's 90. Some say it's 85. But it's always around the kind of 95% figure of coming back to stress one way or another. So
absolutely. So when I was with the FBI. Working in New York City, recruiting spies, 9/11, working at FBI headquarters, Quantico, running my behavioral team, all these things. During that time frame, I had pneumonia twice. I had meningitis.
Oh my!
I had a pulmonary embolism. I passed out in the middle of the night and fell downstairs and broke 3 ribs. And since I retired, haven't been sick a day once.
Wow.
I'm not saying what's what, but stress does a lot of things. Being around unhealthy situations, unhealthy people, it has an impact. I'm not saying it's everything, but yes. So Lena, when you get sick, I look at everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe you went all through that. You experienced all that. Oh my gosh.
No, yeah, there's more too. Probably. Those are the highlights. Yeah, the pulmonary embolism in the middle of the night. That was a goodie.
Wow.
That's when you get the blood clot, and I had a blood clot in my lung that was second from going to the heart. Yeah.
What, did you wake up like? Something
it was. Luckily, I wound up having a partial collapsed lung from it. So the pain of the collapsed lung is what woke me up.
Gotcha.
I thought it was like a gas pain in my chest, and it wasn't going away, and it was really hurting. And so reluctantly, I allowed my wife to call the ambulance in the middle of the night, and they immediately said, "Uh-oh." Yeah, so that was a hoot. I haven't been sick since.
Wow.
I bet that's been quite scary for you afterwards as well, because I mean, anytime you're going to get a chest pain or anything now, do you find yourself being a little bit flinchy or a little bit kind of,
I did for a while afterwards. Also, I was in New York during 9/11, so I'm on the lung monitoring thing as well, because my office building was 4 blocks away, 5 blocks away, and so I inhaled all that debris in the air. So for many years after, I could kind of feel a wheezing in my chest. It probably helped me get pneumonia a couple times. And so that's all dissipated, though. It's literally when you just live a calm life emotionally, and again, it just I don't do crazy, I don't do unhealthy. It doesn't mean you stop working. It just means that you just don't do unhealthy things and unhealthy relationships, because it brings a sense of peace. Not lack of tempo. Tempo doesn't change. It's just in here.
Yeah.
Well, it's even I was supposed to be delivering a keynote, 2 breakout sessions today. I was looking forward to this event so bad. Oh my gosh, in Virginia Beach. Anyway, and then I wasn't feeling 100% up. So I was like, should I travel? Should I? I don't know. And I was going back and forth. And then what happens? Hurricane.
All right.
Canceled all my flights. I couldn't, even if I wanted to go.
Right.
Like this bigger force said, listen to your body.
Yes.
Let's stop for a second. I'm making it so you can't go travel.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it's a great example too, and this is what I think is really critical. And we'll circle back because when we go down these rabbit holes, you never know.
I know.
Talking to three of us is like a box of chocolates, from Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get. But when you actually start having that calmer brain and you just don't do crazy, I call it crazy brain, the solutions are so evident.
Yeah.
And the universe generally screams at you what you're not supposed to do. And so it was screaming at you, Lena, you're not going to Virginia Beach today. And you don't, matter of fact, I'm taking your whole decision process out of it. I'm going to give you a hurricane. That hurricane was all for you.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, thanks, Lena. So no, I've had that kind of thing happen to me many, many times in my life, and just going back to what you were saying about like the kind of when we covered the stress side of things during the whole pandemic and the 2 years of kind of we're locked down, we're not locked down, and doing the hokey cokey COVID dance. I never had it once until I started. I know because I was working probably 7 days a week at the time, or every other week working 6 days, 7 days. So I was at work. I loved it at work, mixing with hundreds of people every day. Never caught it. I was very happy. I was living my life. It wasn't until it had been a while since I'd been seeing my wife and my daughter, and I was staying at my dad's at the time. My dad is not the most positive of people at the best of times, and the worst of it is he's got the 24-hour news channel on, blasting in every room in the house. He's got it on in the kitchen, he's got it on in the living room, he's got it on in the bedroom, and all you can hear is COVID this, COVID that, COVID the other. Now, when I started taking the time off work, because I'd been doing 7 days and then 6 days alternatively, I was starting to get a bit worn out. I was missing my wife, I was missing my daughter, I was getting stressed, I was getting a bit low. That was it. All of a sudden I come down with it because I was spending more time at home listening to that news and surrounded by an environment that to me was more negative than positive, and that's what I think had an effect on me, because for the full 2 years I was just a happy chappy off. I went up to the barracks, I drove over, and I was like, I mean, and we're talking hundreds of different people that mix with hundreds of other different people, and I just walked around with a smile and did my job.
What a fantastic primer for the episode of The Woo in 2 weeks.
We've given you some warm ups here, so yeah. Right, I tell you what, how far in? We're 17, nearly 20 minutes in, and we haven't gone on to the topic that we wanted to discuss.
We haven't been with each other in so long. We're catching up.
It's great, isn't it? So, what we're going to do, if we go over to Robin first with like the reading the room scenario, because I was interested in what we were talking about before this started, and then like Lena, if you can kind of chip in and add to it as we go, and what we're going to do, we're going to pick on Robin the way he picks on us. So I want you to laser focus on something that he says and go, I want to stop you right there.
Wait, I have to listen.
Oh my gosh. And I feel so bad too. I feel bad. I feel good. So I was going on a podcast. They're doing a prep show with me a couple days ago, and a great young woman's interviewing me, and she's putting all their show notes together. And towards the end, I flipped. I love a great conversation. As you guys know, I get so curious. And I said, so how did you get into this? And because she's a producer for this program. It's a certification thing for a lot of other people. And she then talks about how she actually studied archaeology. And I see it, and I'm like, really? I know someone else did the same thing. I said, so I'm asking her all these questions, and she goes, yeah, I don't know how I got into this. I said, so my favorite question. So what did they see when they saw you? And so there you go. So with that, I'll give you all the opportunity if you want with me. So when Gavin reached out this week, it was one of those, hey, what do you want to talk about? So I figured I was presented a fun challenge this week. I had a client today, and they hired me. It's a finance group. They hired me to give them some training on interviewing. And these are analysts for a finance group. It's generally one of my most common clients I get, because these analysts typically only have 5 minutes up to maybe an hour to sit in a very sterile environment with representing investors. And these investors have to decide if they want to invest in this startup biochemical company, whatever widget they're making. And so these analysts have to analyze whether the information that this company is providing is truthful or not. And are they trying to be deceptive? Because obviously a company is going to put their best foot forward because they want investors. And so it's this company's like the middleman trying to assess whether this information they're providing is true for the investor. Challenge, especially when you're doing all via Zoom. So they hired me, and here's what they wanted. They wanted me to read the transcript and look at a Zoom call so we could see just like this, which I think is plenty. More is better, but this is plenty. They wanted me to assess the questions that were being asked by the analyst and the response by the individual as to whether I thought they were being truthful or not. And I reversed it.
I reversed it.
Well, so my premise is this. This is what I'd love your take on, y'all's take. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at the Zoom call, and I'm like, there's just not enough data points. If you have a basically they gave me a 10-minute time frame. Just look at this 10 minutes and assess whether this person's being truthful or not. And I'm like, no. I said, we can see some stress indicators, or we can see some potential comfort indicators if we have a baseline, which we've talked about before. But what I thought was more interesting was I have a Zoom call, and I have, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people on the Zoom call. So I thought it was a lot more interesting. I said, when the person, even though you're trying to have me focus on the person that the question is being asked to, what you really need to be doing is look at everyone else.
Yeah.
Because they're all on the same team. And as this person's responding to the question, what's their reaction to what they're responding to? That'll be the greatest tell of whether it's being truthful or not. Everyone's reaction. So, and also I also said, you really need to start out with some establishing baseline of comfort questions. They didn't ask, they just dove right in. So you don't know what normal looks like for them. I said, did you do any YouTube Google searches of them to see if you have any other video of them beforehand? I said, more data. So my premise of this whole one was, and have you all weigh in, was if you're given a really small time frame to assess trust and you have a whole group, but someone wants you to zero in on one person, my premise was that I approach it was, okay, we can see stress and comfort in one person. I'm more interested in what the other people think of that person. Not only are you going to assess the veracity of the information, you're going to assess the most important thing. And that is this a good group? Is this a good team? Do the Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett invests in companies that are healthy. So you can really see a lot about the culture of the organization of the startup by how they're interacting together. Anyway, so thoughts?
Oof, I love that. I love that. A lot of times, if you are focused on that one person, Robin, and they even thought that's what you should be looking to help me, you tunnel vision, right?
Right.
And everything on the peripheral is what you need to be looking at. And Gav, you may have real world experience to this, but years and years ago, when I used to teach site exploitation, like with teams taking down a house or raiding a house or, a drug bust or something, you're gathering all the people and you're looking at the people, yes, but who's looking at you? And so it's having that, I'm looking at the scene, I'm in the house, I'm with the people, I'm making sure security, safety, but wait a minute, who's watching me do this? Checkpoints overseas back in the day, right? Everybody was so worried about checkpoints, people coming through the checkpoint, screening them, searching them, whatever. Who's watching the people going through the checkpoint? So it's like having eyes in the back of your head, but it's being able to see and if those people on the peripheral know that you're not looking at them, they're going to let things slip.
Yep.
And that's where the gold is.
And especially, what I also told them to do too is I said, you have a team of 3 or 4 people on your side sitting and watching these people.
Yeah.
Who's assigned to do what?
Yes.
Because when I would do an interview, there was the talker, there was the watcher, there's the redirector, because one person doing all those functions, very, very challenging. Only if you're Gavin can you do all these things at the same time. And speak French at the same time.
I'm getting good at it now. I've learned an extra word. An example there for, if you really want to make it if you can imagine a room where you've got 10 people and number 10 is stood up and is being asked a question, and you say to number 10 kind of, right, so whose idea was it to do X? And number 10 says, oh, it was mine. and number 9's mouth drops open and all eyes go to number 9, that's when you can kind of turn around and go, no, I don't think it was. So, and like you say, the beauty of this whole thing is the fact that the people who are giving it away are the ones that don't think they're under the microscope. So number 10 can be standing there thinking he's watching me, so I've got to stay consistent. But it's everybody else who's there, and you can watch them sometimes. It can be the slightest of things. It can be head shakes, and be like, just looks and glances to say no. And that I think that's absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that, like what you said, Lena, people will give more away when they don't think they're being watched, when they think your eyes are somewhere else.
So here's a question for you two interviewing experts. So here you are, great intro. We've established that, all right, something might be off because we asked this one person a question. We asked number 10 a question, as Gavin said, and number 9's given some nonverbal alerting here. What do you then ask next? And who do you ask it for to discover more without putting shields up? How do you frame that question to kind of poke at the truth?
I suppose a lot of this would probably come down to like either the alpha in the room or kind of, how strong the team is anyway, and whether anyone sees anyone as a weak link. I had a brilliant exercise years ago where I got a group of 8 people, and I said to them, I want you all to do me a favor, and nobody other than me and you will know the answer that you've written down. I want you to all write down the weakest link, or who you think is the weakest link in this team of 8. And I was really, really surprised that every single one of the 8 people wrote down their own name.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
That's a healthy team.
That's a healthy team. Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. I said, guys, you've got the best team on the planet.
Yeah, that's a lot of humility on that team. That's a great team.
Well, I used to work with 2 competing companies, and one was always doing way better than what the other one was doing. We just called them Company A and Company B. Right. And Company A was always way ahead with everything. Company B was always trying to keep up. When I went to a Company A, this was where your healthy team was. When I went to Company B, because the Company A was always about trying to make things better for the customer, or what do they do to improve things, streamline things, and so on and so forth. Company B was all about, how do we beat Company A? How do we stick it up to Company A? How do we, and that unhealthy environment was what was killing their productivity. So,
and that's a great thing. And that's a great thing to observe, in your scenario of the 9 and 10, in that scenario, and then in this scenario too, with this group I was working with. So you have someone presenting data, presenting information. If you're looking at healthy, you should see people nodding their heads and agreeing, high comfort displays with a cohesive group, basically all supporting each other. So say you have one person, though, that is all of a sudden someone's presenting information, sharing an anecdote, a story, details, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you get the stress indicators. You have someone doing one of these like this, trying to close them down, not agreeing with this person. What do you do? Lena, what would you do?
All right. So my go-to is the open-ended question. And I've perfected this from years and years because I have to talk to a lot of people who do bad things, and I have to get them to want to tell me all the bad things that they do without feeling repercussion, without feeling like I'm judging them. And so anyway, create this very safe environment for them to say, okay, I did it. In that case, my go-to is that open-ended question. How do you feel about? So if I'm looking at a room, so even if it's like with you guys, right? And Robin, you're talking and you're saying, hey, Lena, I really think this and blah, blah, blah. And Gavin's going, it's like, oh, I don't know. So I want to know what Gavin's thinking. Right. So I have to, number one, create that safe environment so Gavin feels okay to share, okay, in front of me and you. And so how I do that is tone of voice. It's, my speech. It's the words that I use. But I would go to Gavin and say, Gavin, I feel that there's some information you want to share, or there's something that would benefit both Robin and I would love for you to tell us what that is. What are you thinking? What do you feel about? What do you think about? And then whatever it is.
What do you want to add? Right.
Yeah. And if I've done my job right and I'm non-accusatory, I'm respectful, I'm calm, Gavin should feel okay to say, all right, well, this is what I think. I don't agree with you and Robin because blah, 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 blah. If Gavin doesn't feel okay, he's not going to say that. So I have to do everything in my power to make sure that people, whoever it is in whatever situation, say, hey, Lena, I actually disagree with you. And I want you to be able to say that to me. I want you to feel comfortable doing that. And so if a person hesitates, I have more work to do as the interviewer to create that safe environment.
It is such a fantastic opportunity to really see organizations when all of a sudden you get that spider sense is tingling because someone's nonverbals are saying, I don't necessarily agree, or or there's something being omitted. And when you throw out that open-ended balloon where you say, does anyone have anything to add? And if no one says, then you can do like Lena did and direct it right to the person. Say, Gavin, how does that make you feel? I love that. It's and then as they're sharing their thoughts and opinions, what the next step is so critical, because then you're going to see, does someone say, oh yeah, you're right, I'm so sorry, it's a little off, or do they go like this? And that when you ask that open-ended question, when you see a little discourse, a potential discourse, when you ask that next follow-up open-ended, that's going to be a great indicator. Am I dealing with healthy or am I dealing with crazy? And like this, it's so fascinating when you're, again, bringing it back to the scenario I had, when you're trying to assess and make decisions, and help people make a decision what's good or not good for them and their company and organization. They're not asking these questions. They're not watching these things. They think it's just about the widget. It's just about the data. No, it's not. A lot of people can make a widget. They can do little things. They can make a whatchamacallit. It's what kind of group are they? And those are the great questions you can ask, just like this, to watch that happen.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've actually said for a while, people don't quit jobs. People quit people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've found that in so many work environments. I mean, even my wife, she had a job somewhere. She loved it. She got on well with her she was teamed up with a co-worker that they would become like best friends. And then later on found out her co-worker was leaving. After her co-worker left, she hated the job. The job she loved only a few weeks before. And she said, I can't do it anymore. So, and I've had this same kind of thing with many, many people. One person leaves and they say, I can't stay here anymore. And it has the domino effect. So, but Lena, I think you hit the nail on the head with a safe environment when I said to a company I was working with a while ago about, I got this kind of screwed up versus cover up thing I was trying to explain to them. And to summarize it, if you've got your staff that are covering up mistakes rather than coming to you saying, I screwed up, I need help. If you've created that environment where they are safe enough to come to you and say, I screwed up, I need help, that's when you've got a good working environment that will be, progress, will make progress, rather than people trying to cover it up. And then you've got to say, right, who did this? And everybody goes, yeah, so.
Transparency and vulnerability.
Yeah. It's got to be safe enough for people to say, yeah, it was me. Put their hands up. I did that. I'm really sorry. How can we put this right?
So both Gavin and Lena are world travelers at this point. Both were on massive trips. We heard about Lena's exploits a little bit, didn't hear about it all. But the other thing that was interesting was Gavin. We all follow you on social media because we can't help it.
Sorry.
Yeah. What was beautiful, and you said something interesting, was also the spur to this episode was you formed a great quick trusting relationship. So I thought, what a great lead in also. So here you are, you meet this family as you're traveling, and all of a sudden they're in all your photos with you. How did you assess that trust so fast for you and your wife with this other couple?
So there is that family. I'm not going to embarrass them by saying their names, but they were sitting by us on the plane. And we just got chatting, we got talking, and it kind of, we ended up exchanging details and saying, well, look, when you get there, even though we're in different hotels, let's meet up. And we did, we kind of followed up on that. There was, so we had an emergency landing on the way back in Munich, where the plane made an unscheduled stop in Germany. We never made it back to England where we were supposed to, and there was a couple that was stuck. They didn't have taxi fare. They were in a real awkward situation. And I said, look, jump in the taxi with us, and we're all going to the same hotel. And I'm not going to go into the details, but again, another relationship there, and another relationship with another couple at the airport. where we were sharing kind of ideas on what to do because the travel company said they were going to reimburse us for the expenses. So there's 3 lots of couples, and we've stayed in touch with all 3 of them. You know, and we've become friends. We've all agreed to meet up again. So yeah, and I'm not going to take all the credit for this because my wife had a very big part in it with the first couple on the plane as well. But we all got on really well. All of us did. We've all stayed in touch on social media, phone numbers, WhatsApp, and whatever else. And I also met. I went on a bus journey out into some areas that are probably a little more hostile, and everybody on the bus was Russian. I was the only English guy. There was nobody else on the bus, and my Russian's a little bit rusty, but I managed to get by. And I basically
I want to hear your Russian words. You had great French words that you know. What Russian words do you know, Gavin?
Я понимаю по-русски не очень хорошо, но немного. Which is I understand Russian, not very well, but enough, you know. So, but yeah, so yeah, we're talking. I established he's a high-ranking military guy, and I thought, well, there's an opportunity that I'm not going to pass up on. And we kind of established a friendship as well, and we exchanged contact details, and I've stayed in touch with him too. So, and 1 or 2 other Russians on the bus too. So we had a great time.
Nice. So how are you assessing so rapidly these relationships?
So I was thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask me, and I think I kind of took it on board and thought, yeah, how do I do it? And when I reverse engineered it, I think I would rather put it to people like this. If you're looking for a tip or a technique or a quick fix or a band-aid, forget it. That's not what's going to work for you. You've got to be 100% committed to being genuine with somebody and wanting to either help them out or just doing things for the right reason, not wanting anything in return. You know, so you've got to take an interest in the person you're talking to, not just for the sake of conversation, but because you want to learn about them. And if you're doing something for somebody, you know, if they drop something and you pick it up, it's got to be sincere. You're doing it because you know whatever the small favor is, or what, you know, it's no good just offering gifts with insincerity. You have to, from the very beginning, look at somebody and say, I like this person. I'm going to invite this person into my life to be a member of my family, and that's it. You know, and because if you think, right, I'm going to use this trick, this tactic, this little tip I learned off YouTube, this thing I learned off an FBI book and a field manual from the CIA, and I'm going to buy him a donut and offer him a holiday home in Croatia, and then he's going to sell me secrets about his government, it's not going to work. You know, you've got to really cement and forge. I love that word. Forge the relationship from the beginning, and say, you know what, you are now in my life. Welcome as a person that, you know, no matter what time you knock on my door, you're welcome to come into my home.
So in those first instances with each of those individuals you mentioned, reverse it. What did you do that made them feel safe? What did they see?
Yes.
I think just like you say, transparency.
What did you say? What were you transparent about? Yeah. Again, you're doing these things naturally and organically, but some people struggle with this. You're making them feel safe. That's why they did it. So it's not. Remember, this isn't necessarily about, like you just said so poetically there. This isn't about the tool or technique we're employing for us. It's understanding what we're doing that makes them feel safe. Because that's how you're making these relationships so rapidly. You are doing something, Beth is part of it as well, making people feel safe that they're allowing you into their lives. It's not you trying to allow them into, you're not trying to recruit them. They're actually really letting you into theirs by making them feel safe. What was it? Do you remember?
I don't think there's anything specific. I think it's a little bit of everything, showing vulnerability, so showing a little bit of humility. You know, the whole kind of package, as it were, is just, you know, kind of being open and honest about as much as possible.
Are you poking fun at yourself like you always do?
Probably.
Self-deprecating humor. That's what I was thinking. I was like, if it's Gavin, it's self-deprecating humor.
Yep.
More than likely, yeah.
Yep.
I do that a lot. So,
which requires what? Humility, and humility requires a lot of self-awareness, and that makes people feel safe, because if you're being transparent enough about what I'm not good at, whether it's real or perceived, doesn't matter. It makes people say, well, if he's not going to hide this, he's not going to hide anything else either.
Mm-hmm. And I do agree with you there, because we live in a world, especially with the likes of Instagram and so all the social media platforms, where everybody's life is perfect. You know, there's a photo of the perfect wedding cake and the perfect holiday, and but what they don't see is the rows behind closed doors. They don't see the fact that your electric bill's late and you've only paid half of it last month. They don't see the fact that you're stressing and that somebody's just scratched your car after it's just come back from the shop, and you're going and pulling your hair out, and life is real. Life happens, and because when we live in this perfect world and everybody around you wants to try and maintain that image, even in their real day-to-day life, they want to try and look perfect all the time, act perfect all the time, talk perfect all the time. And somebody comes along and says, hey, do you know what? I woke up this morning, I had a great big spot on my chin and my hair was all over the place. And I went to the front door and I realized, I'd got my shirt buttoned up with one button higher than one buttonhole, and, and the whole day was a mess. And then all of a sudden people go, wow, this guy's human. And then that's when when they realize that you're not trying to fake this image, and you're just saying, life is real, it happens, and it's messy, and I don't mind putting my hands up to say I've made lots of mistakes and screwed lots of things up in my life, or occasionally say this went drastically wrong where I screwed up, and they see that real side of you. And I think that's like what Brian's just said here, trust. I think that's where that trust is kind of born, as it were, because they realize you are being honest with them, even if it means embarrassing yourself. And if they know
when you reverse it, you're looking for the same in others. And so, Lena, you had a more same kind of challenging experiences. So here you are, you're over in the UK working with a group of people I don't think you worked with before. So what kind of experiences did you have with trust? Did it come easily? Were these people good? Not putting people on the spot, but did you have any pings? What were you looking for, basically?
I don't think I was looking for anything, but as Gavin was talking, I just kept thinking about my trip, and I was like, I met the best people on the planet. They became my family. Literally became my family. So I went over there for 2 days, and we filmed morning to night. It was 2 days nonstop, tons of work. It was so much fun. They were state of the art. Everything was just amazing. From the producers to the director, I just loved everyone. And I just was so happy and so thankful. And I think I kept, expressing the gratitude, like, thank you for inviting me to come over. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. This set is amazing. From the guy who mic'd me up to all the camera guys, everybody was so nice and so respectful. And so I kept constantly expressing this gratitude. At the very end of the 2 days, the director came up to me. Well, we had dinner that night. And he goes, I have never met somebody, both me and my husband, that I've connected to this fast. He goes, you two were just an absolute joy. I cannot wait to come visit you. I can't wait to continue working together. He's like, I had the best time with you. And I was like, oh my God, I was so thankful. And so he came up to me and he said, what would you think about working with me on something else? And I thought, and he mentioned this topic, I can't say. And I said, oh, I know that topic. And I was like, blah, just talking just like how I do. And I was just going off in this and just joking with him. And he listened, he's like, can we shoot a trailer? I'm like, what? Come again? What? Like, are you for real? Like, you want me? Like, why would you want me? I'm nothing. And he's like, dude, humor me. I'm going to write something. I'm going to film you. And I want you just to say it. And I was like, okay. And he goes, just mimic me. And I mimicked him. And after I was done, I stopped, and everybody started cheering. I mean, the camera guys, the sound guys, the mic guys, the producers, the direct, everybody, and clapping and cheering and hugging me. And I'm like, I don't know what I just did, but I guess it was good. And so the head director came to me. He goes, I'm going to make you a superstar. I was like, oh, twist my arm, you know? But I was just joking because I'm like, listen, I'm not full of myself. I'm not here to say this, that, and the other. I'm going to work my butt off for you. And I'm going to make sure that I deliver for you. And I think, Robin, and this comes back, even Gav, to all our conversations, that humility. I was there for them. Right. And I wanted to make sure, which is probably why I got run down and got sick. I wanted to make sure that I gave them 120% of everything that I had. And it paid off. And not only in the work-wise, but the connection that we left England with. It's just, I'm still like, wow, how lucky was I to have this opportunity to meet these people? It's amazing. Amazing.
So not luck, relationships.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it comes, you get opportunities from relationships, you able to forge more relationships, and you're able to move in any direction you want to move because of relationships. Talent and skill are nice, but people will train you to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
It's relationships that are going to get you there. Always 100%. And this goes back to what Shawnee Delaney said on last week's episode. I really loved. I asked her, how does she assess trust rapidly? You know, if you're dealing with an individual, and this is exactly what you did. What we're kind of goes to that theme of the whole group here. It goes, I see how they treat others.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's such a great tell. If you don't have a lot of data points and they're trying to just schmooze you, which you never know if they are or not, but you can literally see how they're treating other people. And if you're on a set and you're working with all these different people, you can see how they're treating each other.
So nice.
Lots of good, healthy things going on there. It's fantastic.
That's a golden nugget right there, because that's what I did observe. I observed they were such a cohesive team and so respectful to each other.
Right,
everybody offered, can I get you water? Can I get coffee? Hey, can I make this? Everybody asking everybody. There was no like, I'm the director. No, everybody was just so tight and cohesive.
Poetic. Nice.
Yeah.
So let's turn it back around on you, Robin, because we know that you've recruited people in the past. So what was it that they saw in you that made them want to open up to you and trust you? What would be your areas that you could kind of bullet point for us?
You know, I'll give credit to Shawnee in my last episode. She said something that is exactly what I try to do. When I work with anyone, and this kind of goes to what both of you were just saying, they know you're going to get 120% of me all the time. I used to tell all my sources and anyone I worked with that I used to pick up my cell phone, and before that I had a beeper, and I'd say, see this? This is right next to my head 24/7, whether I'm sleeping at night, during the day. I said, your family, anything in the world you need at any time, date or place. I said, you text it, you call me, whatever it is, and I'll be there. I am here for you. You own the relationship. I said, you know, I was all in. And the other thing too, extremely transparent, like you said. A lot of, you know, it's a funny dichotomy of maintaining confidence yet vulnerability. And I try to do, I don't try to do that. It's kind of me, that Marine in me that is type A is I am confident, but at the same time though, I know exactly what I suck at really, really well. And I'm very transparent about it. And so I think that combination of that openness that I always am, and 120%, I am just vested in, I am of service is a good way to put it. I am just 100% in of service of them.
Oh, I love that service.
Yeah,
it's huge.
I was listening to what you said there as well about the kind of you're type A, but you know what you suck at and you own it, and that I think is a really, really good thing. You know, similar things myself. If I'm crap at something, I'll put my hands up and like, I'm just no good at that. You know, and that I think is it goes back to what I was saying about everybody's trying to be perfect in this perfect online world. So nobody wants to show what they suck at. Nobody wants to say, I can't cook, you know, and I have to doll pizzas every night. You know, when there's people online doing these recipes and you know, and so they try and cover up what they suck at rather than like what you say, owning it, saying, yeah, I can't do that. And Yeah, humility. I mean, that's come up so many times. And I think that really is a big part, like you say, finding that balance of confidence and not just confidence, but ability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to know that, look, no matter what happens, I'm there for you. I've got this.
And we'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I reckon we should write a new handbook for intelligence officers when we get a chance, because I reckon we could put this together quite quickly and quite easily.
Yeah, it's something I'm tinkering with on the next one. There's a lot of content. There's such a, as you all have seen because you've been on my show,
Mhm.
and we're all three of us are very similar. Everyone is so similar.
Mhm.
And I've said it numerous times, when you're functioning at this higher level, and not higher level like better than anyone, higher level where there's lives on the line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everyone that is highly functional gets this. They get this is about humility, it's about transparency, vulnerability, context, empathy, massive empathy. You know, Shawnee was so good, and you know, Lena, you and her. Do you know Shawnee by any chance?
I don't know if I want to meet her.
You two are two peas in a pod, because you say such similar things, because and you did such similar things. She's recruiting, you know, Middle Eastern mullahs, and she's a blue-eyed redhead. And you're interviewing terrorists. I mean, it's so, and yet these are walks of life and genders that generally they don't want to interact with, and yet you're both so magnificent at it. And why? Massive non-judgmental empathy. Walk a mile in their shoes, understand them without judging them, not saying you agree with them, but that understanding, seeing the world through their context, diving deep. And it's what we do. It's what we do here. Is like, hey, what's this origin story like? Hey, so you just went on vacation, saw these great photos, Gavin, you and Beth in Egypt. All of a sudden, there's a much bigger backstory going there. Understanding that's where we make those connections.
Yeah.
There was one saying I would always, cycle back to, especially in my interrogation days, was, I'm not going to judge you for what you did. I'm going to find out what you did, because I need that. But I'm not going to judge you for what you did, but I will find out what it is. And I guess I always kept striving to be able to find out all that without the judgment.
Right.
And when I was green, I thought they went hand in hand. I had to judge. I had to do this. No, it's so not that. It's just 180 degrees from that.
I've had people say that to me. I've had people in training of mine say, well, some people just need to be judged. I'm like, okay, no problem. I can just tell you exactly what's going to happen when you're doing that. I'm not saying I don't say what's right or wrong for you. I just say what the result's going to be when you do certain things. I did the same thing. Every single espionage interview I did or strategized on, espionage was only one thing going sideways in someone's life.
Yes.
The world would be shocked if you knew. I'd say probably at least 50% of the espionage subjects that were real espionage. We get a lot of ones that aren't really espionage, it's just people turning in friends at work. But if it's real espionage going on, like betraying the country and selling secrets and doing all that, 50% of the ones I worked, they were doing really, really bad things to children too, believe it or not. And there was this one case we were working, and the guy was already arrested, and we knew he had abused a lot of children. Wow. And our job was, how do you inspire him? I use that word inspire, because it has to come from within him, to share the names of his victims, because we didn't have them and we want to save children. And I remember talking to the case agent saying, if you're going to sit across that table and judge him, I'm not going to judge you for judging him, but you will not be able to get him to share.
Right.
Luckily for us, and we had one tool on our side that gave us context, which helped a lot. And he had written a poem about when he was 9 years old and sexually assaulted and abused and raped by the Cub Scouts.
Wow.
And so we started getting a glimpse of context. And that context about what he was treated like, and later in life, how he defined love and not love. I mean, it was dark and horrendous, but it gave us context and understanding of walk a mile in those shoes, because this guy was made. He was not born that way. And it was dark. But what's the goal? If your goal is to save lives, and if you sit across the table and judge him,
Mhm.
I guarantee you're not going to save lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean
Or-
you're going to agree. It means you're just there to save lives.
Exactly. And you're not there to argue. I'm not going to argue a point. I would have people to try to kind of do this to me, like, oh, I'm going to get her to defend, or I'm going to say something that's really going to piss her off, like, the United States deserved 9/11 and blah, blah, blah. I listen, take it off the table. It's not for me to argue that with you.
Right.
That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to get information to stop future attacks. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
Save lives.
Save lives. Support. Save
Yeah, focus on the objective, because there's too many people, in my opinion, that want to be judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
From the minute they find out that somebody's done X crime, they're like, I think we should do this to him, and he should be treated like that. And they're being not just judgmental, but they want to write him off as guilty or her off as guilty, and decide the crime and the punishment and everything, and even be the hangman as well. And this is where the problem lies, where
that's fine, but then play it forward.
Yeah,
that's all you can do in each of these situations where someone's reacting that way, is just, all right, we can do that. Let's play that forward. If you do X, Y, and Z and behave this way, is this first of all, let's start with your why. What's your whole purpose? What's your why for doing what you're doing? Mm-hmm. Is what you're now going to do this individual going to help or hinder that why? All right. If part of that why is having a brand that you want other people to want to come to and share with, if you treat someone in that way, what's that going to do to your brand? Are you going to destroy that brand? I mean, no one volunteers to the Russian FSB because they treat you really, really bad. They set up honey traps. They, with the CIA over there, that they do horrendous things to your family, your animals. I mean, it's just, that's why, because their brand sucks. So you got to play all these things that you're going to treat another human being forward. Anyway, I digress on that one.
No, it was spot on. Yeah, I love it. Go on, Lena. Go.
Reading the room, right? We're talking about reading the room. Do you think that we should share some things to be aware of when reading a room for the purposes of knowing who and who not to trust?
Good idea, Lena. Go.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so I'll go first. I think a good tip that I tend to pick up on, which gives me a good insight whether or not I can trust people, whether or not people are open, right, is just to give a quick look, head to feet, to see if they're open, right? Is their body language open? Are they taking up space? Are they not? It's very different when a human body is standing with a good posture, arms are down, they're not covering up anything, I'm taking up space, I'm maybe walking with a wider gait, my chin is up, I'm having good eye contact, I'm breathing good. Okay, that person looks and feels calm and confident. And it pops on my radar and I like it. I instantly feel a positive feedback, right? Instantly from people like that. And I'm like, oh, I like that. I like this person. I've never seen him. I don't know him, but there's something about their aura I like.
Positive energy.
Now, yeah. And that's that positive, open energy. Take the opposite. You have a person who's balled up, who's kind of slouched, who's slinking around in the corner, who's curled in, chin down, avoiding eye contact, maybe really fidgeting. That person pops on my radar as, ooh, pay attention. Pay attention here. Something may not be right. What are they hiding? What are they keeping from you? And all of a sudden it's a negative energy, right? And so you may not know what it is, but you're getting this feeling, one negative and kind of creepy, the other one positive and open. I like, I don't like, I trust, I don't trust. All from head to the toes, how that body is standing, gesturing, sitting, walking, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think that for me, that's like a number one thing that I tend to kind of take in. Why are you laughing, Robin?
I'm going to poke at it.
Of course you are.
So, Lena, you're given the task at this function that you're at to read that room. And part of that read of the room is your task that you were assigned was that person that is closed, that is given that negative energy off. Yes. And you have to actually strike up a relationship and trust. How do you open it?
All right. So I approach them, but very carefully, and I use mirror neurons. I can't be my very overly exertive, open, like, ha, here I am in your face, because if that person's introverted, I'm going to make them feel really uncomfortable. So I have to be very gentle, and I start to mirror how they look, how they sound, how they talk, how they walk, not necessarily because I want to close off, but if they are introverted as personality preference and they tend to be a little more closed and a little more avoiding eye contact or whatever, then that's what may make them comfortable. I have to make them comfortable. I have to make them feel comfortable around me. So what I will do is safe. Yeah. And what I do is I start to mirror them, just like a mirror image, right? And I just kind of become like them, exploiting that similar to me bias. If they don't have a lot of eye contact when they're talking, I don't. If they pause and talk a little softer and slower, I do. And I start to get into this little cadence, like a rhythm with them. And usually in my interviews, I notice when I do this, people start to warm up to me because they feel more comfortable around me because I'm similar to them. I'm like them.
What do you use for an opening statement? Either of you.
Oh my God. Talking about putting on the spot.
Well, so I know. So I'm sorry.
I love you. This is why you have amazing podcasts, because of this gift that you have.
But you do this. See, I don't ask questions I know you haven't done before. Also.
I know.
I don't set anyone up for failure.
It's always a provocative statement. It's never a question, because questions are too accusatory. And I don't want to force myself into your field. So it'll be a provocative statement.
Yes.
Provocative statement, a benign statement, probably having to do with the atmosphere. So if we're in a restaurant, it has to do with the restaurant, it has to do with what's on the TV, it has to do with the menu, it has to do with the loud noise around me. Something, I will just drop a provocative statement in hopes that you kind of perk up, look at me, I become a blip on your radar, you look at me, now I got the eye contact, now I can start to angle my body towards you. Hopefully you respond with something. I'll use humor, self-deprecating or not, and then we just start the dance.
Yep. I call those third-party references because they're really good for those things. Seeking thoughts and opinions about third-party references. Something that Chris Voss trained us on, wrote the book, Never Split the Difference, and he wrote it in the book as well, which I absolutely love in these situations also. And Gavin, I bet you've done this because you are really good at reading emotions. That is, do some emotional labeling as well, where especially if you're seeing someone looking uncomfortable, and you're doing a great mirroring of the mirror neurons on that one. You just say, you kind of do one of these, gosh, these things make me feel really uncomfortable.
Oh, yes, I love that. Because they're going to be like, oh my God, me too. I hate you, right? And you're like, well, now you and me are same.
Yeah, because and I call these balloon statements because you're not even necessarily directing it at them. You kind of direct it in their presence, and you're kind of just throwing a statement out there. It's an emotion that you think might be there. So it's an emotion mirror neuron. But yeah, so I love those things as well because it's a potential opener for them if they feel safe in responding.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? I've used that one that you said with the mirror neurons, but I've also used another technique, which is pretty much the complete opposite. Ooh. And that is, if you've got somebody who's introverted, and I mean, I'm a pretty reasonably introverted person, so and I did it on the plane. The guy sitting opposite me, the other side of the aisle, he's an introverted guy, and he's sitting there and he's reading his book like this. And of course, I've just looked over and said, "Hey, guess what are you reading?" And you'll never guess what it was.
What?
It's something we all have a copy of.
Not Atomic Habits.
Yeah, we plug in everything. The guy's reading Atomic Habits, and I'm like, you're kidding me. Yeah, now this guy is a really introverted guy, but I mean, as he's reading Atomic Habits, I've just gone into waffle mode, haven't I? And I've just said, "Oh, it's brilliant." I've told you, I don't want to give too much away, but it's really, and I've gone like uber extroverted at this point, and I'm really gonna saying how great this book is and how it's helped me. I've recommended it to other people, and so even though this guy might be uncomfortable being an extroverted person himself, sometimes you get this kind of opposites attract, this kind of yin and yang thing going on, and all of a sudden they feel comfortable because you're comfortable. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So it's a great opener because you have common priorities. You're talking in terms of priorities.
Yeah.
So great over the top validation of that. What is a question you could ask him to actually get him to open up?
Oh, I mean, we started
Besides
with
validation, you validated the living hell out of him. Great.
Yeah.
Great book. Great. It's just really, so you're going to love it.
I've asked him what, has he made any differences for him? What was the best part he's read? Which bits he up to?
There
And
you
that
go.
kind
There
of
you go.
thing.
Yep. That's
So,
what I was thinking. It's like, what was the most profound thing you read so far? What kind of difference did it make in your life? Because when one of those things like that, then all of a sudden you got this buffet in front of you. That's like, oh, I can go down this route, I can go down this track, all these little tracks that open up when you ask that one, what challenge did this solve for you in your life, do you think? Oh, it gives you that gold back. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was brilliant. And not only that, it was, I mean, we went our separate ways when we got off the plane. And I didn't actually think I'd see him again. But when we were sitting in the transit lounge to board on the flight home, he came and seeked me out, and he's like, I've read the rest of the book, and he was talking. So he came looking for me, which was really, really brilliant, So, but yeah, I've done that in like the scenario where you said if somebody really does look uncomfortable, rather than going over, and I have done the mirror neurons thing where I've done something similar to what you said. So yeah, these kind of things like freak me out or whatever. But I've done the other way when I've gone over loud and proud and gone, hey, you're looking a bit uncomfortable. Everything all right? And they've gone, yeah, I get a bit nervous about it. Tell me about it. Come on. And if you can show enough confidence and show enough comfort that you're relaxed, then they start to relax as well, and if you can say to them, look, you've nothing to worry about, I've been to hundreds of these and you're going to be fine, and kind of give them that bit of reassurance, that can also have a very similar effect and get them to open up to you. So
you just went through the very first step in recruiting a spy.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
So the quick little fun thing here on spy recruiting. The greatest challenge in recruiting, especially Russian spy, so here's how they're trained, and here's what I had to overcome. Besides the fact you're trying to get someone to commit espionage against their own country, and try to get is not what you're doing. You're actually giving them opportunity to do something they already have in their mind to do. But the first thing they're trained on, any intelligence officer anywhere is trained on, as you all know, is if someone initiates contact with you, they are special services of the adversary. You break off contact. So I was precluded, not just by law, but by their policy. If I initiated contact with someone on my fruition, I am now intel, and they're going to shut me down.
Yeah.
So not only I'm precluded by law to do a cold call and initiate, by their training, if I initiate, I'm the spy, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah, you're out.
So how do you inspire someone to want to have a conversation? How do you inspire someone that you want to initiate a conversation with? How do you inspire them to want to have a conversation with you? Know what their likes are. And sit there. In other words, Gavin, if I was targeting you, the first thing I would do is I would put myself in your presence because I knew you're going on vacation in Egypt. I'd sit next to you on that plane. I'd have a copy of Atomic Habits out.
Yeah. Oh, dear, I've been recruited.
Because I've
that
done
person was there. I know him. I sent him there. So.
but that's exactly how people always wondering, how do you do this?
Yeah,
it's because you have to know because again, it goes back to my 4 pillars. You have to know the priorities of someone else, and you have to talk in terms of those priorities. You have to empower them with choice. You have to, all those 4 pillars. But the first thing is know the priorities of someone else and be a resource for them in terms of those things. So if I know that one of your great loves in life is Atomic Habits, I'm going to make sure I cross your path, do a smile campaign with you. So I desensitize you, make you feel safe in my presence. And I'm going to have a copy of Atomic Habits with me everywhere I go.
a blip on the radar, as Lena says.
Yeah.
Right. That's how it's done. That's how it initiates.
Yeah. And we've done it, and it's great that we've covered this from both angles. Some just proximity, frequency, duration, intensity. I've heard that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Relationship intensifiers, I call them, of Jack Shaver. I stole them and didn't even realize it.
I know, right?
Brilliant.
Oh my
I read his book and go, huh.
That's where I got that from.
You got it from him? Huh, I thought I invented that too.
Oh, God, that's awesome.
Yeah, that kind of thing happens. Yeah, no, yeah, I love it, and we all know when it comes to recruiting, it's people have asked me to sum it up, and I've said making friends.
Yeah,
Simple as that. You know, it's the best job in the world.
it is.
You're making friends for
And
life.
having a great conversation with fascinating people.
Mm-hmm. I also contacted Sean Delaney, by the way, Shawnee Delaney.
Oh, did you?
And yeah, I did, and because she's doing cybersecurity,
Yep.
and we spoke about very briefly about the how it's similar to the jobs that I used to do when I was doing penetration testing, and I used to literally get it was brilliant. What a job! I used to get paid to break into buildings, you know, and so. What I'm going to do, I'm going to also circle back here for a minute to explain to a lot of people that seem to have an impression due to the likes of films of Mission Impossible and that kind of thing, that when it comes to the world of intelligence, that we have one task, you know, to kind of rappel down a rope to a room with a safe with laser beams, get a file, just one file, and get out, and we've saved the world, right? Just that one file. That's all we need, and the world is safe. And it's not like that at all. It's in fact, it's one of the hardest things to do when you've got somebody there who says, I don't like my country anymore. I don't like what it stands for anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to come over to you guys. Can you please get me out of here, and I'll give you something to make it worthwhile? And you say, yes, stay here. And they go, what? Yeah, I want you to stay. I want you to stay exactly doing all the things you hate in the place you don't like, in the bit that you've given up on, in the environment you've lost faith in. And I want you to carry on living there and doing that and bringing me information.
Yep.
And one day, maybe, if you brought me enough, I'll get you a ticket out of here.
Give you a little bit of cash if you come over today, but I can take care of you and your family for the rest of your life if you just suffer through it a little longer.
I've used that line a few times. so yeah.
A lot.
But yeah, so I just want to dispel that myth of kind of, you know, all we need is that one microchip or it's one job, and you know, no, it's not true. You know, if it was that simple, if it was a case of, you know, kind of breaking into one building, getting one bit of intel, and that has all the world's intelligence from every agency on one little disk, whoa, wouldn't our life be a lot better?
And what you ultimately want them to do is you want to help them get in positions in places like the United Nations by working on visas and denials of others so they can get in the right position and stay there even longer. Because we work with people to make sure they can stay there longer and make it not look like we're trying to help them stay there longer.
Exactly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a lot of double bluffs and all sorts of things. So, but yeah, before we get into confusing the entire audience and probably giving away too many government secrets, and
my default is if I wrote it in my book, it went through pre-publication review. Yep, I'm good. And it's all in my book. That's all my claim is.
All right. See, I'm on the different end of the scale. So the Official Secrets Act, I've still got it here, even though I signed it. I just don't care. Simple as that. So right. We are over the hour. Thank you to everybody who came. We didn't read many of the comments out this week, so I apologize to everybody.
What were a few so we can at least give people some credit? Because I don't see anything on my end.
I see the comments now. Oh, I just clicked in. Hey, Ryan, John, Grant. Oh, happy family.
Oh, yeah, there they are.
Siggy, Claire, look at everybody. Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to give a shout out to Sam, because she said earlier that she'd got COVID at the moment as well. So bless her prayers. I hope you get over that very, very soon. But
I'm praying for you because it's awful.
Yeah, it is. It's rough. So with a bit of luck, you'll be over that soon. I'm going to also mention this thing here that John Johnson said about a YouTube series called Atomic Keto. So, which is the keto diet based on atomic habits. The comments that looks exciting. There's so many people. Grant's in the crowd who's been putting all sorts. Brian's in the crowd. There's been some really valuable comments, and we've kind of missed them all because we've been having so much fun.
They're beautiful. Thank you, everyone.
So thank you to everybody who's been here. Next week we have got an amazing guest coming to join us. Should we leave them in suspense a little bit longer and announce it in the week?
We should, but are we doing it here or on Facebook?
We'll do it on Facebook if you want to set the Facebook up, and we'll keep alternating between the two.
And don't forget, we still have remember Mondays now at 3:00 Eastern time. We still have, and everyone's been showing up great for my podcast premiere. So I'll give a promo for that. So this week, If you want to hopefully show up, I think I should be able to do it same time. I'm traveling. I'm going to be in Louisville, Kentucky on talking at a conference there, but I should be able to make the same time. My guest this week is, his name is Pablo Gonzalez. He's not a spy. I have all hodgepodge of different guests. This is the gentleman who got me into podcasting.
No way.
He is one of the most fantastic networkers. This is all about networking and forging great relationships. He got into podcast. He got me into podcasting. He goes, because this is the greatest way you can be of service. He's all about creating relationships and revenue by being of service. And this is how, by creating relationships. So he grew up in Venezuela. He grew up feeling like an outcast. Again, I go through the same thing. There's a great conversation with heartwarming story. So tune in at Monday for that one with Pablo. And then right after him, the week after, I have Dr. Debbie Gilboa. She talks about from stress to resiliency, talking about that as a tool. So again, I have lots. And then we have Dove Barron after that. So again, I got my lineup right there. So everyone keep tuning in. And we'll be sprinkling in more spy recruiters here and there. But remember, every single episode is about our human condition, great stories, great tools with heartwarming stories. So that's my plug for the show.
If anybody didn't see the one with Shawnee Delaney, by the way, go back and see that. It's brilliant. And the other one, the gentleman you had on just before her. Yeah. Again, go and see that. Both really, really brilliant episodes. Right. For everybody who might come on afterwards and not know who we are, Robin Dreeke, where can everybody find you?
Yep. Robin Dreeke, peopleformula.com. Although I'm now shifting. If everyone's seen my logo, I don't got my logo. I got my new logos and everything. I'm actually shifting to the podcast name, which is Forged by Trust. And so check me out, Forged by Trust. We got the YouTube channel for it, or if you prefer general podcasting. And yes, I have my free course, which is the Keys to Communication course. Go to my website, take that for free. You automatically get enrolled on my email list. And all you get on the email list anyway is my reading list, as well as weekly updates when the next podcast is released. So it's not inundating you. It's just that. And yes, you can hire me for all things and get my books through there too.
Brilliant. Yeah. So, and Lena, I mean, you're everywhere. You've got to type Lena Sisco into Google and, world famous star.
I got to start carrying her bags now for all her stuff. Need to be an agent.
Yeah.
One day. Yeah, well, you guys can find me at thecongruencygroup.com, sectorintel.com. Of course, TCG Tribe Facebook group. Come on over there. And I do have online courses. I have some short courses and 2 longer programs where you study with me one-on-one, and you can find them at tcg.thinkific.com. So I have all my courses there too.
Yeah, love Thinkific. That's where all mine are at too. Good, great.
And if you're not on the Facebook page, which is TCG Tribe, is that right? TCG Tribe. Coming over that. That's what. So we do 1 week here, 1 week there, and alternate the 2. So come and join us, and you'll see next week's video where we've got our surprise guest coming, and we're going to go into
start trickling in.
Yeah, and hopefully then he'll be on the podcast as well.
Yeah, certainly will. So brilliant. Thank you, everybody.
Brian said, yes, next week, guys, I will be in Comic-Con. I will be in Manhattan for the Spy X Festival. I'm super excited. I'm going to be with a bunch of celebrities. And Maria, I forget her last name. She's a TikTok star because her dad, Agent Buttercup, she's a young girl. She started doing TikTok videos of her dad, who is a former spy. And now she's just a huge sensation, but she's going to be with us. And we are holding it at the Spyscape Museum in Manhattan. It's in coordination with Comic-Con. Jim Clementi's going to be there. Just a whole bunch of former CIA and Russian spies and just a whole bunch of cool people. And we have some fun activities on the nights of Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night there.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Right then. Everybody, see you next week on the Facebook page. Thank you all.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone.
I know. It's good to be back.
Thank you to everybody who came. All right.